Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Well, thank you.
Amazeballs.
Any news?
Oh, so much. I'm really disappointed in myself from the last episode where we all sat around and went, no, nothing really. So during COVID times, we had some flooding in the valley and one of the bridges on our road collapsed.
Oh, yeah. That was still down the last time we were there, yeah.
Right. So today at 4:00, they had an opening party of said bridge.
It deserves it because it's been collapsed for about, 4 years? Yeah.
Well, I reckon it's like 2 or 3 at least.
Yeah.
So tomorrow you can now drive all the way down without using the dodgy side bridge that they had to build. And it's all over the local community Facebook page.
Oh, even better, yeah.
To the point where Dan Wilkinson from the Indigo Shire Council said the federal government contributed 80% of the $1.553 million required to build a bridge, with the Shire funding 20%.
Good God, that's an expensive
That's how
bridge
much
you've
it
got
costs. There. It's not a huge bridge. It's 2 lanes.
Did they put
1.5
concrete
million.
pipes this time instead of the old?
It's impressive. If you drive, it's got all the stuff going on you'd expect from a
what are they called?
modern day bridge. Culverts. It's got bluestone rocks underneath it and steel and concrete and all the stuff. Yeah. It's not going to collapse again for a long time.
Hopefully, yeah.
Anyway, there you go. That's the big news from home.
from the valley. All right, cool. I suppose we should introduce ourselves. I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarkey. And together we are
Trial by
Wine.
And what are we drinking?
Well, after my Diet Coke last episode, I've literally cracked open and spilt a bottle of top shelf Schweppes. Yes, original soda water. Look at me showing off.
Fancy.
No home brand tonight.
No. And you boys, you're still on the feather top?
We're on the Riesling Dale, yeah. How about yourself?
I'm just finishing a little rum and coke, and then I'm moving on to not top shelf, tap water that has been carbonated.
Oh.
Soda water.
Nice. Keeping yourself nice because of that big day tomorrow.
Got to be up at 5, so yes, indeed. Clarkey, got a story for us?
I do have a story, yes.
Can I guess? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you probably can.
I have a feeling, yeah.
Regular listeners might be able to guess too.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with my sources just so I don't forget. So they are news.com.au, Yahoo News, gotocourt.com.au.
Oh.
That's a good one. That's new.
corpau.blogspot.com. And The Age, who had so many articles on this story that I ended up subscribing so that I could read them because
Shapers, haven't had that before.
There was quite a lot. Yeah, no, it's actually very well.
Shits me to tears. The subscription services for news really annoys me. It's good to know.
Let
Let me know you log in at some point.
Yeah, I'll fax it to you. I'll have to work out what it is and send it to you all so you can do it too. Anyway, so you may recall that last time I stumbled across the story of the Society murders by accident after the recommendation from my research assistant that I do a story on the Balwyn Society murders.
Yeah.
So this time I'm on the right track and I can now bring you the story. Now, there are a few reasons that this story was recommended. 1, the nature of the crime. 2, the fact that it ended up leading to the change of Victoria's provocation laws. And 3, the victim was a cousin of a school friend of ours, something I was unaware of until now. First up, I'd like to tell you about Victoria's old provocation law. Old because it's no longer a thing.
Yeah.
Also old because it seems very, very outdated.
Archaic.
Provocation was abolished as a partial defence to murder in Victoria in 2005. Prior to that year, provocation could be used to reduce a conviction of murder to one of manslaughter.
He had it coming. He only had himself to blame. Yeah.
I think that's what it was called before they changed it to provocation.
See, he had it coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Provocation in Victoria no longer amounts to a partial defence. However, any provocative conduct by a victim is considered in determining the appropriate sentence to impose for a crime of murder and for non-fatal assaults.
What does that mean?
Rather than it determining what you're convicted of, it will be used to determine how long you're sentenced for. So you won't not be guilty of murder because of provocation, but you might be guilty of murder and then sentenced to a much shorter
period of time.
Of time because of it. Provocation in Victoria could formally be used as a partial defence to a murder charge if, and I want you to take note of these, there was evidence of provocation. Okay, yeah. Writing down as we speak.
Pens in hands.
Make mental note. So it could be used if there was evidence of provocative conduct by the victim. That's very broad, isn't it? The defendant lost self-control as a result of the provocation. The provocation was such that an ordinary person would have lost self-control and formed an intention to cause serious bodily harm or death, or the defendant had acted while deprived of self-control and before his or her passion had cooled.
Oh, God.
It's a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot.
And I don't know if it has to be all of those things or one of those things. I'm assuming all.
With this law, this is the old law, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, with this law, when we're talking about provocation, would that include my husband's been beating me for 25 years and I just had enough and stabbed him? Or because it sounds more like he just gave me the shits and he just didn't do the washing one last time.
So you're asking the right questions. And
do you know what I mean? Like the victim is provoking me. Where I'm uncomfortable with that language is that it sounds like the victim's needling me or the victim's pushing me to this point. But can you be pushed in the instance of where you're terrified that you're going to be killed yourself?
So I think that one of the reasons – I'll talk about this in a sec. Because you're asking the right questions, absolutely. So if the above was accepted by the court, the defendant accused of murder would be found guilty of the lesser crime of manslaughter. So you could by all intents have murdered someone and it would be changed to manslaughter because of provocation. So why was the defence of provocation in Victoria abolished? The defence of provocation in Victoria was introduced to provide for the situation where a victim of domestic violence kills her abuser.
Right, okay.
This made point of it being a victim of domestic violence kills her abuser.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that it was introduced because of that, but I feel like Victoria kept it for as long as they did because of that. So the argument for keeping it was, well, if a female, victim of domestic violence then acts out, we should allow that not to be murder. I'm guessing that's not necessarily why it was originally introduced. I'm not 100% sure on that. The problem is, in practice, the defence was commonly used by men who killed their female partners in circumstances of infidelity or where the victim was seeking to end the relationship. And I think that was the reason historically that it came about. That we've seen that throughout, other cases we've done where around the world there's an acceptance of men killing their wives. Like a crime of passion.
Yeah.
Or a crime of shame or, that all that sort of stuff where it's okay to kill your wife if she doesn't do what she should have done as your wife.
Well, I mean, she is your property. Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of thing, right? So I think for me that's probably where the law originated, although I don't know this. But it was kept around in that sort of time of going, hang on a minute, we need this for women in domestic violence cases. So the men using it to kill their female partners was perceived as a misuse of the defence of provocation.
I agree.
Yes. Consideration of provocation at sentencing. When reviewing the defences to murder, the Victorian Law Reform Commission recommended that rather than constituting a partial defence, provocation should simply be taken into account at the sentencing, which is what we spoke about earlier. That's what it is now. And it can now only be used as a mitigating factor. Right, so all makes sense, kind of? We feel like we're across that? Yep, beauty.
You cannot get off based on it or get a lesser charge for it, but you can have your sentence reduced if you can evidence that you've been provoked to act in a certain way.
Yes, correct.
Mhm.
Now, Schmitty, to your point around, is it about whether or not your partner doesn't put the washing out enough or whether they're actually beating you? Bear in mind that this case is the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back, where the
It's
Victorian
someone being
government went,
beaten?
righto, that's enough. So I think
It could
it'll
go
make
either way.
you...
It could be a man murdering a woman because she didn't put the washing out, and they went, "This is a ridiculous defence. We're not taking it anymore." Or it could be a woman who's been a victim of domestic abuse breaking.
I mean, I don't want to sway your views on this case, but I feel like it wasn't as serious as not putting the washing out.
Okay.
Right? So it might make you a little bit angry. Now, I'm going to start the story in a way that I got from one of the Age articles. So it starts at the very end. And then we'll backtrack from there a little bit. So Julie Ramage lay on the floor, just brace yourselves, this bit's a bit not very nice, with her husband's hands around her neck. She was unable to scream as her vocal cords were constricted. She'd been punched twice by the man she once loved with such force that his hands were swollen and red a day later. Before she fell to the floor, she was already bleeding from the small cuts to her nose and mouth. She had bruises and cuts on both of her hands, signs that she had fought hard for her life
Defensive
against
wounds.
the man she had come to fear. Slow strangulation requires strength and determination. Pressure needs to be applied for up to a few minutes. James Ramage had both. Julie died in their family home at the hands of her husband. There was no confusion over who had killed her. James confessed to Detective Senior Constable Darren Wiseman a day after he killed Julie, but he couldn't say how long she struggled. In his words, "Look, I just lost the plot. I remember hitting her once or twice and then just strangling her." That's his way of confessing. So that's how Julie was murdered. So Julianne Garrett and her twin sister Jane grew up with a large circle of friends in Cheshunt near London. They were the sort of kids who appeared destined to succeed. Pretty, bright and sporty, lots to love. While parents Pat and Ray were building businesses, the twins became involved in sport and Julie began a lifelong love affair of horse riding. James Ramage, Jamie to his friends, was born in Melbourne on the 9th of April 1959 and moved with his parents and two brothers to Hertfordshire. Soon after, Julie and the well-travelled 18-year-old Australian met and they were inseparable. At 17 years of age, Julie was taken with Jamie, 18.
Gosh, you're young.
Yeah, very young. Sister Jane was less impressed. Her first impression of Jamie was that he was very self-assured. He was always boasting about his sporting prowess and that he was a snob. After James finished school, his family arranged for him to return to Melbourne, where a friend would provide an entree to the big end of town. On March 16th, 1979... Yeah. That's the Paris end.
Yeah, sorry, my mistake.
On the 16th of March 1979, Julie left for Australia, and in December, the pair returned to England on holiday.
What year did you say that was?
79.
79.
Yeah. When Julie returned, she looked fabulous. She looked so happy, Jane said. Pat and Ray were so impressed with Julie's life that they decided to move to Melbourne in August 1983. Jane and her husband, Howard, moved later. Ray and Pat stayed with Julie and James in their home in Percy Street, Balwyn. Soon they sensed an undercurrent of violence. I can also recall when Ray and I found a hole in the living room plaster, Patricia said. Jamie had punched a hole in the wall. I spoke to Julie. She tended to laugh it off and said that Jamie didn't know his own strength. In 1984, Julie made the first of several attempts to break free. She moved back with her parents, then to a rented home. When James tried to coax her back, at first she refused. But according to her mother, when Julie was ill with the flu, Jamie came round with Lucozade and flowers, and soon she moved back. When their first child, Matthew, was born, Julie had to drive herself to hospital while in labour as James had lost his licence for drink driving. 2 years later, they had a second child, Samantha. And from the outside, I think to most people, they appeared to have the storybook home with a storybook life. So similar to what we spoke about in my last story, big home, double-storey red clinker brick home, white shutters on the windows, well-manicured lawn, roses and clip bushes, all that stuff in a quiet court off Mont Albert Road. However, many things in the Ramage family were just for show. Downstairs, the house was beautifully furnished. Upstairs, it was a shell, like their marriage. Now, I'm quoting the age in that regard, but yeah,
What
that
do you
was what
mean?
they'd said.
They were renovating it or what?
Just didn't spend
I
any money
just don't
upstairs.
think it was anywhere near as perfect as downstairs. So I don't think they
Okay.
put the time and effort.
into
That's
it.
what I read into it. Maybe not the perfect
Sounds like my house.
presentation. I'm assuming it had.
It's not the kids' shitty bedrooms upstairs.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Gilda Perkin first met Julie Ramage at a health centre when their sons were having their 2-month checkups. For nearly 18 years, they remained close friends. Twice in the early years, she saw signs of violence when Julie arrived at kindergarten with bruises and black eyes. Her suspicions were confirmed in February 1991. Julie told me that she was going to the plastic surgeon. She had 2 black eyes and a broken nose.
Oh
Fuck.
my God.
She said she had walked into a door.
You'd have to walk into a door pretty.
She walked into a door. She walked into a door 10 times.
Yeah.
Honestly, come
Walk into a
on.
door, like slammed
And
into a
the
door.
worst thing about that is like the trope, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
I walked into a door.
Well-
How often have you walked into a door in your life? And
It's-
I have,
it's-
and I might have caught my little, top of my eyebrow on the corner of a door, maybe once. Certainly not enough to break my nose and blacken both of my eyes.
Do you know what I'd have to use as my little trope would be? I've got caught on a piece of furniture or a door handle. I get caught pockets and stuff on door
constantly.
handles.
Yeah,
When you're, especially at home, and like that.
Yeah.
That happens to me
Constantly.
all day,
Yeah, yeah.
every day. Until last night, stuck again, and I look and think, have I ripped my clothes? And it's like,
And that's it. If I rip this
Have I ripped it?
outfit,
Yeah. Door handles.
But not walking into a
Drawers.
door, right?
Yeah, but I'm gonna now. If someone says to me, I got my fabric caught, and they can be totally bruised up, like they've been beaten to shit. Oh, I believe you now. I'm more inclined to get caught with a bit of fabric than actually walk into a door,
Oh,
because that does happen all the time.
It really is the stereotypical explanation, isn't it, for
I wonder
domestic
what the
violence?
doctor thought.
So a week later, she confessed that James had headbutted her.
Oh,
Like, that's a lot, isn't it?
oh my God.
Colleague Joanne McLean said Julie had told her he demanded sex every morning. Even if she didn't want to, he would do it. She hated it and couldn't stand it. She just wanted to enjoy life, have a normal life, but she was frightened to leave. In May 2003, Julie told her parents she intended to split with James, but would wait until November so she would not interrupt Matthew's Year 12 exams.
Oh, God's sake.
Oh, I've got to hear that all the time. That really does happen.
But she jumped 5 months early because of an argument over their daughter Samantha. One Friday, Samantha was supposed to come straight home from school but was 2 hours late. The parents argued. Julie later told a friend, he said, "How can she help it when she had a slut of a mother like you?" Yeah, that just wasn't...
I'm getting very cross.
Yeah. Yeah. The friend said that was the thing that made her think, that's it, I'm out of here. She told me that after this, he demanded sex. She said that she just lay there and didn't move. She'd made up her mind that she was leaving. When James left on an overseas business trip on the 9th of June, Julie transferred $100,000 from their joint account and moved into a small rented house. Samantha went with her while Matthew wanted to stay with his father. James was due home on Saturday, so Julie moved out the day before, Friday, June the 13th, 2003. In a note to him, she wrote, "I know that you would really try to do anything to keep us together, but that is not the point because it's what is truly in your heart that matters, and I know that you can't help yourself and the real you bubbles to the surface, and I don't like that person.
Oh, God.
If you do care for me, please let me go without a horrible fight for the kids' sake. I could hate you so much for some of the things that you've done and said to me over the years, but I also understand that you're a good person and that you work hard, and most importantly, that you love our kids very much. I've tried to leave the house clean and tidy and prepared a meal for this evening. Take care, Julie." It's a classy way to go, isn't it?
Hell yeah.
James reacted with a campaign to woo her back. He rang Julie's mother and pleaded for advice. That sounds like a weird strategy, doesn't it? Like if...
I'm assuming she hasn't told her mum half of it, though. Probably too
Well,
embarrassed.
but she said she was leaving, so I think there's some of it that at least she knows, and you'd think the mum is probably going to read into it and go, "No thanks, mate."
Yeah.
She said no. So, yeah, she said at the time he was very calm and said that he wasn't going to react as people expected him to. Julie was introduced to a man named Lawrence Webb, a friend of her sister's, who shared her love of horses. He was a business executive and a poetry reading theatre lover. They soon began to go out.
Gay?
On Friday, July... As it turns out, no.
No,
Just eastern suburbs.
Just a thespian, yeah. Just eastern suburbs, yeah. Cultured, yeah.
Cultured, yeah, that's right. On Friday, July 18, she told her mother she was going with Jamie to watch Matthew play football for Scotch College at Geelong the following day. So the mum was horrified and warned her not to go anywhere other than a public place with him. Julie told me that she wasn't silly and wouldn't do such a thing. During the football, she told him she had met someone else. The next day, he contacted one of her friends who said, he asked me how I thought he should deal with it. He asked me if I thought he should wait until she got sick of him or it passed. He didn't seem upset. I was impressed that he had taken it in his stride, the friend said.
Oh, he hasn't. He's a psycho.
On Sunday, the 20th of July, she told her mother she had a blissful day. She said she'd been horse riding, Lawrence had read her some poetry, and she had some wine at the pub. She said it was all that she'd ever wanted.
Everyone wants a poetry reading, man.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. I would be the worst.
What are you reading that for?
I start giggling and stuff and going, oh, okay, all right. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that.
yeah. Just
I'm
pass
good.
me the wine.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
Should we
What's
go to
on
the pub?
TV?
Yeah.
Cheeky one.
So she said, it's all she ever wanted. It's a big deal after she split up with her husband. She's found happiness again. The next day she was dead. So Julie was happier than she'd ever been for years when she agreed to meet James at their Balwyn home for lunch that Monday. The house was being renovated and almost certainly she expected the builder to be there. But James had told the builder to knock off for the day as he wanted to be alone with his wife. That morning, he dropped his son off at Scotch College and went to work at his office in Collingwood. Staff said he appeared tense and distracted that morning before he left. Meanwhile, Julie drove Samantha to Lauriston Girls' School in her silver Mini before driving to work at Glenferrie Road, Hawthorn. While making a morning coffee, she told a friend, I'm on cloud 9. She said she had told Jamie about her new boyfriend because she wanted everything out in the open. Carpenter Graham McIntosh arrived at the house at 7:45am, but James rang to say Julie would be coming around and he should leave by 11:40. The builder offered to return later and if Julie's car was not there to continue to work, but he was told no. James insisted that he takes the day off.
Ooh.
Julie arrived around midday dressed in blue jodhpurs, blue jumper, black jacket and boots. So what happened from there, it's quite hard to work out because the only person who knows what happened is James. According to him, his wife was offhanded and cold. She dismissed him, swore, taunted him and demeaned him sexually, none of which we've heard as being part of her MO to this point.
True.
Oh, what about that message she left him?
Yeah,
Nice
no,
one.
right?
They said,
Yeah.
get you dinner and
Yeah.
we should just break
Yeah.
up nicely. Yeah.
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 At no point did she say, and you got a little pippy.
You got little ding-a-ling, me no love you no more. So Julie was 172 centimetres and 67 kilos. Her husband was around 185 centimetres and weighed nearly 95 kilograms.
So I'm in the sort of the weight range for the
husband, me too. Yeah.
He kept fit playing touch football, bike riding and rowing. He had previously beaten her, headbutted her, broken her nose, demanded non-consensual sex and intimidated her. She had told friends and family she did not want to be alone with him because of fears for her safety.
I would like to go so far as to say when we say demanded non-consensual sex and when she said no, he raped her.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. She had said she wanted to ease out of the relationship and had urged him not to go crazy. Yet, on this day, when there were no independent witnesses, James says his wife went out of her way to belittle and hurt him. I mean, you could imagine it, couldn't you, how much she would have done
probably
to...
just wanted to get the fuck out of there.
I reckon. Yeah.
Why would
Yeah.
she? She's not going to provoke him. She's terrified of him.
Well, as it turns out, He says she provoked him enough to make him kill her. He would tell police that as they sat down, I just pleaded with her, what do I have to do?
Oh.
What can I do? And she sort of said, you don't get it, do you? I'm over you. I should have left you 10 years ago. Provocation?
Yeah,
No.
Statement of fact?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know how to get this through your head, stalker. I'm not coming back to you.
Given that she had already left as well, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like she's saying I'm about to and he's trying to.
It's not like she's leaving at this point.
No,
she's already
left.
out. You know, what are you talking about? You can't get me back. I'm already with someone else. Like, seriously.
It's not me, it's you.
Yeah, exactly.
She was supposed to have said to Lawrence how much nicer he was and, you know, he rides horses and cares for her more and all that sort of stuff.
And, of course, there's the poetry. We mustn't forget that.
He claimed that she had sex with him and the sex was better than with Jamie. When she tried to end the conversation, Jamie said, that's when I lost it. As she stood up, I stood up and hit her. And then I just wanted it to stop. And that's when I strangled her. And you don't know how much I wish I could change that. You might sound doubtful of this. Experienced homicide investigators say that when a man kills his wife in a flash of rage, he usually rings the police or a friend to confess. Mm-hmm. One said that in 75% of cases, the offender is still at the scene when the police arrive, but not James. No matter what he would say, his first, strongest and driving motivation was self-preservation. He didn't check Julie's pulse or her breathing. He did not attempt to revive her, and he did not call an ambulance. Instead, he spent the rest of the day in a cold-blooded attempt to conceal the crime. The man who would claim he just lost control apparently regained it within moments. At 12:38, he rang the plumber Patrick to tell him not to come to the house that day. He then dragged his wife's body into the boot of his Jag, making sure to place her on a sheet to minimise DNA contamination. He filled a red bucket with soapy water and used blue and white tea towels to mop up the blood. He changed his slightly blood-stained dark blue jumper and pants, drove her Mini to the rear car park of Columbo's, a pizza restaurant in Whitehorse Road, then walked the 700 metres home. He rang his work to say he wouldn't be back in that afternoon, grabbed a shovel and drove to King Lake. Supposedly distraught by what he had done, he was still cool enough to try to build an alibi on the run by twice ringing his wife's mobile phone. He knew that when she was reported missing, police would trace her to his house. He would also then say that she had left and would have phone records to suggest he tried to contact her later. He drove to a place off Arthurs Creek Road near King Lake National Park where he dug 2 shallow holes, leaving the body in one and his compromised clothing, towels, sheets and her handbag in the other.
What, were they next to each other?
Not next to each other, but a distance apart.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. He tried to conceal evidence by running the Jag through a car wash in Dymo. Or for those who don't know Dymo, it's Diamond Creek.
I was going to say Diamond Creek, man. Yeah.
Is Diamond Creek a bit...
That's my old hood.
Rural? Is it sort of on peripheral?
It's quite, it's kind of on the outskirts. Okay. Probably not so much nowadays.
It's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough back in the day.
It's not now, but yeah, all right.
Sounds very nice. That afternoon, he was to check a piece of imported granite in reservoir specially ordered for the kitchen.
Reza,
yep. Less than 3 hours after killing his wife, James wandered into the factory to keep his appointment.
Jesus.
According to the manager of Acropolis Marble and Granite, he was very well-mannered and polite. He was very cool. He did not seem stressed.
Very memorable.
Around 5:45 p.m., Samantha, the daughter, tired of waiting for her mother at school, caught a tram to their rented Toorak home. When Matthew arrived home, his father suggested they go out for dinner. Now, if you'd had a day like James had, where do you reckon you'd go for dinner?
KFC. No.
I mean, it's a good call given some of the stories you've had.
I'm not sure they're going to sponsor us now.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I mean, he's posh, isn't
he? So. I'll tell you. Mm-hmm. He took his son to Columbo's.
Oh, I was going to say that pizza place, but then I thought, no.
As they sat there
and Peter
chatting,
Falk came in and said,
he said, there's your mum's car.
Yeah.
Yeah, so James has literally taken his son to the restaurant where he's parked his dead wife's car.
James, what a coincidence.
20 metres away. Like, come on. At 7:30 p.m, Samantha rang her father to ask where Julie was. He said she was probably off with that Lawrence bloke or something.
Oh.
But James decided he needed help and called in an old friend.
Can I ask a question, Clarky? When they went to the Colombos, did he do that so the boy would see the mum's car, or was that just not even on his radar? It was just
because he parked around the back of the Colombos, so they would have parked at the front, gone in, so he's just in close proximity. I don't know whether it's because he wanted to know whether the police had found it or keep an eye on developments. I don't know.
It was returned to the scene of the crime. Yeah.
Oh, God. So he goes to get the help of a family friend. The friend was one of Australia's best criminal barristers, Dyson Hall Lacey.
Of course.
They met at the Harp Hotel in Kew. When he told the barrister what he had done, Hall Lacey called in solicitor Steve Pica, I think, P-I-C-A. Together they decided Jamie should talk to the police so they could hear his version of events. So, a few minutes before midnight on July 21st, James walked into the Kew police station with his solicitor and confessed to strangling his estranged wife, Julie. The conversation went a little bit like, this is James Ramage. I'm his solicitor, Steve Pica. James is here to turn himself in for murdering his wife. Where is she now, the policewoman asked. At King Lake. I drove her there in the boot of my green Jag this afternoon, James says.
Good God.
So a few hours later, James was charged with murder and ordered to stand trial at the Supreme Court in August. When asked to give his plea, he said to the court that he was not guilty of murder but guilty of manslaughter. Colleagues from work, women she went riding with, and other mothers from her children's school sat in the court each day hearing evidence from Julie's family that she had tried desperately to be free of her controlling husband. Court evidence drew a picture of the couple on the surface, how amazing their relationship was, how successful they were, how comfortable they were in their eastern suburbs home, and that James was a successful businessman while Julie worked for a clothing company. The court heard James was controlling and domineering towards his wife. A work colleague of Julie's told police that James would decide what clothes his wife would wear and even chose the colour of her lipstick and nail polish. The court heard that earlier in the couple's 23-year marriage, James had broken his wife's nose after an argument and on one occasion had pushed her out of bed. A man who cannot be identified for legal reasons said he had an affair with Julie between September and October 2002 and that if James had ever found out, he would have killed them both. More than 25 witnesses gave evidence over the 3-day committal hearing, including Vic Health's chief executive Rob Moody, who played touch rugby with James. One of the most unsettling moments of the hearing took place when Matthew and Samantha gave evidence. Both children said that they had never seen their father act violently towards their mother, but admitted their parents often argued. In a statement to police, Samantha said her father had unnecessarily punished her more than what she would expect a normal father to do. Samantha told police that on one occasion her father had given her a black eye.
Oh.
She later told police, Dad had a temper, but I never thought he would kill Mum. The children said their father was distressed and depressed after Julie moved out, and marriage counsellors and a psychologist said that James was desperately seeking reasons for the separation.
You're a prick.
A controlling prick that beats her.
That beats your wife. I mean, what more do you need to know?
Yeah. I mean, apart from all of those things, you sound like a nice bloke.
It is shocking, yeah.
The defence argued that James should be convicted of the lesser charge of manslaughter because, you guessed it, Julie had provoked him with verbal taunting and gestures in the moments before he lost it. They painted him as a pitiable figure, a man who found the last few weeks crazy making, who had been duped, who had been clinging to false hope, who had been desperately trying to remake himself and his home in an attempt to get his beloved wife to come back. He had talked obsessively to friends and to his son, Matthew, about what he might do to win Julie over. He'd written himself lists of things to do, including one instruction that I must relax and be more carefree. Agreed. Matthew told the court, I spent 4 weeks with Dad every night going through everything he could do to improve himself.
Yeah, 4 weeks, that's all you need.
That'll do, yeah.
I must relax and be more carefree, not I must not beat my wife and I must let her choose her own colour of lipstick. Like
And
it
I
just
must take accountability for myself and stop blaming other people for why I feel the way I feel.
So James had seen 4 different counsellors and taken his wife to 2 of them in the hope of salvaging their marriage. His lawyer, Philip Dunn QC, told the court he tried to work on his spiritual side, which someone had told him about.
Someone had told him he had a spiritual side?
Yeah, someone had told him about. So that's what it feels like. Like, try to get in touch with that, mate, because this ain't working for you. So he booked into a course of 16 meditation and relaxation sessions. He was anxious and not sleeping. Both his children testified that they had found him weeping at night. He's on an emotional seesaw. He's all over the place because he's not being told the truth. She was not so intimidated that she could not have had 2 affairs behind her husband's back while they were married, the defence argued. I think that's a low blow.
That is bullshit. And also when one bloke, she's not there to defend herself on that. And she didn't have an affair, by the way. She had left her husband.
No, she did have one.
No, some guy came up and said I had an affair with her, but Julie's not there to say, no, I didn't.
100%, but that's the...
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I'm not saying that justifies any of it.
This person to say that. To your point, who cares? Maybe she did. Maybe she was so frightened that she was trying to find someone to support her to get out of that situation.
Yeah, and I think the person that said they had an affair also said that if he had found out, he would have killed them both. I don't think he was there to testify what a root rat she was. He was there to talk about how violent and how intimidated she was. Yeah. That was sort of how I read into that.
Mm.
So Mr. Dunn pointed to her latest lover, a man she met after she separated from her husband, as the reason she might have abandoned her long-held caution and finally told James the truth. Not that she'd already told her mum months before meeting him that she was going to leave him anyway. She told several people that she wanted her new relationship out in the open and didn't want to lie anymore. James told police that he killed Julie after she told him she didn't care about the renovations and made a wank-wank gesture. Agreed.
Fucking hell, I would be in trouble. He just sounds terrible.
So bad.
I know. I just was so like, I just couldn't handle it.
All these things she did to me. I mean, she did a wank-wank gesture and told me she didn't care about the renovations.
Oh, my God. That's just so bad.
Schmidt, remember I said it wasn't as bad as not hanging the washing out?
That's right. Yes, I'm just dwelling on that right now. Yes.
After she told him the marriage was over and she should have left him 10 years ago, and after she told him that sex with him repulsed her and that she had found a new man who was much nicer. So they're the reasons that apparently he was provoked. She didn't care about the renovations and made a wank-wank gesture, told him the marriage was over and she should have left him 10 years ago. She told him that sex with him repulsed her. I mean, also because you're raping her, she's not going to be so hot about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that she'd found a new man who was much nicer. Just about any man off the street by the sounds of it.
Yep.
On the basis of this alleged exchange and on the basis of the confusing messages James had been getting about whether the separation was final, this is the defence saying that, not us. The defence argued that his crime should be reduced from murder to manslaughter because his wife had provoked him. As the burden of proof was on the Crown, it was up to the prosecution to prove that the alleged provocation had not taken place. James did not have to prove that it had. The prosecution argued against this, saying that she would never have taunted him because she feared him. He'd been verbally and physically violent to her before. After 2 days of deliberation, a jury of 7 men and 5 women had concluded that James Ramage should not be convicted of murder, accepting his provocation claims.
Oh, what?
Once the jury had accepted provocation, murder was off the table. Alluding to the legal issue, Justice Osborne said, "The court cannot allow the law to be seen to condone deliberate domestic killings, whether or not they are to be characterised as murder or manslaughter. Such killings strike at the foundations of society. The killing was done with murderous intent and savage brutality, and where, although the jury has accepted the reasonable possibility of provocation, it is apparent that such provocation was not objectively extreme. Did not pass the washing machine in the
wank hands.
Washing machine for too long. Yeah. wank hands.
That does not pass the threshold. Wank.
I agree with what the judge is saying. Like,
it's just bullshit. Yeah.
God. The maximum sentence for manslaughter is 20 years in Victoria. So this is the bit that if there is a law that says you can use provocation to get your sentence from murder to manslaughter, and if the provocation isn't that bad, the maximum sentence is 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
He got 11. So half the maximum for essentially, confessing to murdering someone, saying that he got the wank hands and therefore it was all right.
I just lost my shit. Yeah.
Do you think it's because from the outset, his connections and the people that he went and we had to come and meet him at the pub
I do.
were
I think he's
so
very well
cunning,
connected.
so well they had that advantage of going into that knowing how they were going to handle the legal system as such.
I envisage that conversation at the pub was all about what legal loophole is there to get us off this.
Yeah,
it just reeks of that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the benefits of being wealthy and white and privileged and well-connected and blah, blah, blah.
Going to the big end of town.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Collins Street.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was sentenced to 11 years and ordered to a minimum of 8 before being eligible for parole. Justice Osborne also said, "I'm satisfied the killing was deliberate and done with murderous intent. The killing was brutal, involving an overwhelming and continuing assault on a smaller and weaker victim." He said it was not one of objectively extreme provocation. Like the sentence in that case seems just so inconsistent with
what the judge is
he's saying.
Yeah.
He also said he was not persuaded that James had expressed real remorse for the killing. So the manslaughter verdict sparked outrage by the community groups and led the Victorian Attorney General Rob Hulls to vow to abolish the provocation defence, which then happened in 2005. James was released from Beechworth Prison, which, Schmitty, came up in your story, your last story.
Although it was spelled Gale at the time. It was jail.
Yes.
Gale.
Gale. After serving 8 years of his 11-year sentence. In the lead up to his release, James regained control of a private company on May the 5th, reactivating his business empire from his jail cell, having himself reappointed as director and secretary of a company.
Jesus. Good job. Well, he's got to earn some blunt when he gets out.
Julie's twin sister Jane said, "I have this thing in my head about him being able to walk around in fresh air and go to the beach and do all the sort of stuff that Julie is unable to do, and she's in a little urn up the road in a graveyard. He's 51. He still has a great life ahead of him. Julie did not get to see her children turn 18. She would have been so proud of her kids." So he's got a new love who's a mother of 2 teenage girls, and she bears a striking resemblance to Julie. She also loves horse riding. She rightly says that James deserves a second chance and describes him as a gorgeous man. That bit I don't know, but, I think anyone who's done their time probably does deserve a second chance. The time bit's the problem for me, and I don't know that he's a gorgeous man. She also says that she cares very deeply for him, but I do wonder how someone can sleep comfortably next to a man who's done what James has done. He was the last Victorian to use the provocation defence. The outrage it created was such that the defence has now been outlawed. And there's no doubt in my mind that many believe that this was and should have been tried as a case of murder. And that's the story. What do you think?
Just makes me very angry.
It's revolting, isn't it?
It really is. Revolting is a good word.
I don't know. I feel like it's premeditated. I'm not buying she came in and she pissed me off and did wank hands and so I killed her. I reckon he had it planned. And I think he was furious that she'd met someone else.
Yeah.
She was moving out of the sphere of control and without knowing anything other than what you've said about this individual. To your point about the new girlfriend, whatever, it all comes back to, do we believe that people can change? And was it something in particular to do with their relationship that triggered this in him and no one else will? I don't know. I don't trust that. My mother always said, man raises his hand to you, you leave immediately because he'll do it again. Doesn't matter how apologetic they are. If a man hits you, you walk away. And I don't know.
It's good advice.
It is. And if I was with someone who I knew had murdered their previous partner, I wouldn't be with them.
I just,
You know?
yeah, that's a red flag for me.
Just a bit. Just a smidge.
Fucking big one.
I think, don't people talk about beige flags and stuff? I was thinking of saying that, but no, I think I'd go as far as saying it's a red flag for me.
It's a red hot poker flag.
That's a deal
flag.
breaker.
Oh, but
It
did
is,
somebody
it is.
set you up? No, I admitted that I did it, but, she'd been mean to me and she
She did
that.
wank hands. Like, I
She did
can't.
wank.
I was well within my rights.
Fucking, you wouldn't last a minute, Schmitty, with this one.
Yeah, old cocksucking. What do you?
Gesturing,
Gesture?
gesticulation.
Yeah. That sounds like something else. Yeah. I wouldn't. No, you're right. I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that just wants to put him in an environment where he is the victim. He has no control. He is victimized in the way that he victimized his wife. But then I sort of go, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes you think, and I think Swanee, you struggle with that all the time. Is kind of, are we becoming the monster in the discussion? But I just don't think like 8 years is anywhere near enough.
No.
And I just think, I'll just swan out and go and get on with my life like I was just having a little time out. And maybe I had to learn to calm down and relax a bit more while I was in jail. Maybe that gave me the time to reflect on that. And now I'm out and I'm fine. It just boils my blood. And there's a thing about the time too, like being as in the period that this happened. Women didn't report these things, and women did think that it was okay for their husbands to victim. Not okay, but
And
what am I meant to do?
Doors a lot.
I'm expected to be in this relationship. He's bringing the money in. He's got the powerful position. I now have children. I have to stay for the children. The staying for the children once till they finish year 12.
12. Oh.
It's like it's one thing if you and your partner are not getting along and you kind of amicably say, look, we'll just keep it calm until then. It's quite another when they're belting the shit out of you.
That's absolutely right. I know there's a bit of a season, I think, at the end of year 12 when you find out which marriages
you've mentioned it before.
just are there. And, none of the ones that I'm aware of were the ones that I'm alluding to. My friends certainly have not been in this predicament, thank goodness. But
part of the reason women don't leave is because of this sort of situation too.
Totally.
Because they're
Absolutely.
terrified that they
Save
will
with
kill
them.
them.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I think for me, when we talk about time, the issue that I have with him is he had form for decades, really. Do you know what I mean? Just went on. I think it works out as decades in the end. There was no rehabilitation in that last month where he went, I've been trying really hard. That was so entwined in who he was.
Also, like I'm trying to set an alibi up almost. I'm going to talk about how, my son and I spent a month together, how I can be a better person. Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean about the premeditation. It's like he's not just on the day where he cancels things and he rings work and he covers his tracks and all that sort of stuff. It's the lead up to it.
I don't know that I didn't pick up that was part of premeditating. That sort of came back to me as the ownership bit that, she's mine. What do I need to do to get her back? I'm not going to genuinely change. I'm just going to see what other people think I should do and try to get their support to help me get her back. Like it just seemed
just manipulative.
Manipulative than any kind of premeditation. But there was a lot of woe is me for, I've done all this bad stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like for him it was a lot of image, and when she left, she shattered his image that he probably presented to his friends of being successful and, having a bigger dick and being a better lay and having more money and blah, blah, blah. And when she comes out and says, you're a shit lay, mate, and I don't give two shits for your renovations, she wouldn't have said it. She wouldn't have said it like that, but that's how I was.
That he was comfortable enough to bring that up in court and say, and then she sort of didn't care too much to rubbish the renovations. That is like it's
what?
Not even first world. That is just ridiculous. That is so pompous, isn't it? It's just like,
it's foul.
She diminished my renovation efforts.
Yeah.
If I've ever heard of a provocation, that would have to be the one, right?
She unmanned me.
Oh.
Yeah.
And when you talk about that provocation, like you talk about that law though, had she killed him, you'd go 100% provocation. Yeah. The fact that in that situation it's reversed.
That's it.
So he's using it as I mean, God, it's hard to kind of work out how he sleeps at night knowing that he's done that, let alone how his new wife or new girlfriend sleeps next to him. The whole thing is so dark.
I feel let down by the law.
100%.
I feel if there was someone that I would sentence, and it is just, this is one of those situations where surely at the end of that trial, there must be a number of people who are not at ease when they go to bed, thinking, I'm not sure that really played out the way it could have and should have. The person who feels like they've benefited from it the most is a person who admitted that they murdered their wife.
Right.
You know, if everybody else would be there sort of going, well, I did my job and I did what I was supposed to do, but I don't know, that wouldn't feel good. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of them must feel pretty, I don't know.
Imagine the family leaving the court at the end of that just going, what happened in there? How does any of this make sense?
Yeah.
I would like him to not be able to go back to leading a normal life, given how weak the sentence was, how crap the law was that allowed him to be charged with manslaughter instead of murder. Had he got done for murder and had 25 years or 30 years, you might go, yeah, all right, he's done his time. He hasn't done his time.
I do wonder about that, because if you think of a man like that, am I saying, in one respect, I'm thinking that he is so insecure when he was, when his wife had left him, that he feels that he has to beat her up, and then when she's found someone else, he's got to like put an end to that by killing her. So he's just, to whether that's called saving face or whatever it is. So then when he comes out, I wonder how that affects him, and whether he's so either narcissistic that he doesn't care what people think of him now, or if he's still that insecure part of him, which is like, everyone's talking about me and, everyone's still judging me. I would imagine that being inside his head, whichever way he went, would be an unpleasant place to be, because I just, the foundations of his personality and who he was that had him doing this to her for such a long period of time, that would have you question somebody about what their motivations are. I just wonder when you add all this other stuff that's happened since and then coming out, I don't think that makes that kind of personality a more sound, a more relaxed. I think that's all highly unlikely. You might be getting something on the outside, but I reckon he'd be fraught on the inside with, if you're worried about what your fucking kitchen renovation's going to be, and that's the, and oh my God, that is scary. I don't trust it.
So I don't know, maybe I'll pop in a vat of boiling oil, maybe. Might make me feel a little bit better for 5 minutes. Or just one of Swanee's ones, take all the control away, put him in a position where he's being the one at the receiving end of it.
I think he needs to go and live out where they dump the bodies and be a nobody out there and just be known as a murderer and have no access to money or influence and just be a loser. Not that I'm saying everyone from that area where we
King Lake's very nice, so yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Well, do you know what I mean? It just needs to be.
How about we take him
society.
to a place in Trial by Wine World where people maybe dump bodies, and that's where he goes. Back to Trial by. We haven't been to Trial by Wine World for a very long time. We've neglected our roots.
We have.
Yeah.
What about if he became a homeless person with debilitating anxiety, so he just couldn't function, but was so worried about all the things that might happen?
I would like to see that he became homeless, but he was still trying to talk to people about his fabulous renovation.
I renovated my shopping trolley.
Oh my God! You should see this piece of marble I picked out. It was, and then they'd be like, "Oh, mate."
Even if they don't mean to, they're just compelled to do wank hands at him.
Yeah. Oh, you should see the piece of stone I got for the kitchen top. Oh my God, the stone I got for that.
I don't know what came over me. I never do this, but this man was talking. I couldn't stop doing
Can we sentence him to wank hands world, where everyone, that's how they say hi to each other. They just go wank hands and roll their eyes.
Or maybe every time he says anything, they do that in response. Yeah.
Oh, it's a new section of Trial by One World. I like it. Wank hands world. I love it. Oh, we got there in the end. Yeah. All right. All right. Good job, Clarkie. Yeah, that was sad. All right. Sadness in suburbia. On that note, as we say every week, Miss you already.
Sure.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from Pixabay.com.